Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Welcome, friends. It's Tuesday all day, and we have a big show today. So we're going to get right into it. And then if we have time at the end, I'll chat about what I'm up to. But we had recorded our interview about open adoption earlier, and it went longer than expected. So we're just going to go right into it with our first guest, who is an author who understands that even in fantasy, real emotions and challenges can take center stage. K.M. Warfield writes fantasy with a touch of realism, exploring the bad things that can happen to good people without relying on excessive gore or explicit content. Yes, please. Cam also has a powerful personal story of overcoming discouragement to finally embrace her passion for writing later in life. So please welcome on this wonderful morning, K.M. Warfield. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm awake.
Good. Good. That's all really that we can expect this early in the morning, right? Where are you?
I'm near Seattle.
Okay, so it's very early there.
It is 7 o'clock my time.
Well, I appreciate you setting your alarm to get up for me. We could have also pre-recorded your interview if it worked.
Well, I normally get up at 5, and I'm usually leaving by 6 to get to work.
So today you get to go in a little bit later. So thank you to your boss for letting you do this. I love that. So you started writing in 2008. What prompted that?
Honestly, a Dungeons and Dragons game that ended very badly.
Uh-oh.
And I didn't like how it ended, so I wrote a different ending. And everybody from that group was like, oh my God, this is so good. We need more. What's next? And that's honestly what got me started writing.
Oh, wow. Okay, for those of us, me included, can you explain a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons? I've never played. I don't know. So tell me about it and how it ended badly, and I want to know all of it.
How it ended badly was easy. Everybody's characters ended up either dead or imprisoned.
Not helpful.
What Dungeons and Dragons? It is a tabletop role-playing game where you've got a character sheet of the character you're playing. You've got stats, you've got dice. Depending on how the dice roll and the stats is whether or not certain skills are successful, whether or not you've hit the monster you're trying to fight.
Sure.
And so forth. And to me, it's a very, very creative outlet, especially with the fantasy. There's so many things I can just feed into that and crosses over on both ways.
Have you always been into fantasy games? Have you been like a fantasy reader? Is that always kind of your escapism?
Yes, always fantasy reader. I remember playing Dungeons and Dragons when it first came out in the 1970s. Yes, I am that old.
I didn't even know. No idea.
But I grew up in a small town in Eastern Washington. And in a lot of ways, the only way to escape the mundane life around me was to imagine things. My sister and I we had a big maple tree in the front yard. It would shed leaves every fall. And we would make outlines of castles and houses and with bedrooms and kitchens and stuff. And we would make up our own stories out there, just wandering around in these walls of leaves that we had outlined. So, yeah.
That's so funny.
I
did the same thing. Yeah. I did the same thing. Yes. We had a bunch of trees in our front yard and we kind of made little homes inside of them. They were like little patches of a bunch of trees. And every year, I don't know why I'm sharing this story, but every year, literally my dad would arrange for a dump truck full of sand to arrive at our house and dump it into our sandbox, and an entire dump truck, like not just a little bit of sand. And so we had this huge hill of sand every summer that we got to play all, on our Tonka trucks and all of that stuff. And then by the end of the summer, it would be completely flat. And those were like core memories.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a cul-de-sac at the end of the road where I lived, and when the snowplows came through every year, which they did more than one day a year, it would push everything into this big mound in the cul-de-sac, and us and my sister and I and the neighborhood kids, we would dig it out, and it was like a snow fort waiting to happen. You just had to dig out the tunnels.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, don't even get me started on snow in Wisconsin. And what we would do there. Yes. So when you were like, okay, well, I'm just going to write my own, like, was being an author ever on your bingo card?
Not really. My parents did not know how to raise a creative child. Let's put it that way. They were very solid, you get an education, you get a job, you keep your nose to the grindstone, you collect your paycheck, you don't complain, you just hope that they notice your good work and you can get promoted. And, a lot of, oh, that's a great hobby, honey, but you shouldn't be thinking about doing that full time. You're never going to be good enough. Somebody else is going to get that shot. And so honestly, when I first started writing, I was terrified of it, because by the time I started high school, I thought my skill was nothing more than being able to write, or pardon the language, being able to vomit bullshit on an essay, on a test. So, and then when I also started writing, I had people around me that were actually supportive. It wasn't, oh, that's nice, honey, but it was, oh my God, we want to know what happens next. And that makes a huge difference. It really does.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I went through the same thing, still go, especially I think in writing, and like that, like I used to do the show in front of an audience. So you get that instant, am I doing okay? Do you like this or not? And when you don't have that, it's difficult to know, like, am I on the right path? Do I know what I'm doing? So can you talk about that a little bit, about how that did change you as
a lot of it is I've got a rule that I send out to my beta readers and stuff every 100 pages. So I will write about 100 pages and then they get it, and I will keep writing till they give me the feedback. Now, sometimes I will stop at a specific point because I want to know if I've gotten the impact I think I have on that. And honestly, one of my favorite compliments was one of my best friends, a sister of my choosing. I ran into her where she worked, and she had just gotten a new section of a book, and she comes back with, just took one look at me, you bitch. And I'm like, well, thank you. But yeah, and I found that way back when in high school, I took 2 years of actual typing on a typewriter. So I don't need to look at my keys when I'm typing. And I have found some of my best work comes if I just close my eyes and let what's playing in my head find words through my fingers. And I don't, otherwise, sometimes I'll sit there and look at a page and spend 10 minutes going, is that the right word I want to use? And overthinking it and everything else. But if I can just relax and let my fingers figure out the words, it blends much better.
Oh, interesting. So you have 3 books out right now, right? And you're working on the 4th?
Yeah.
All right. Tell everybody
the fourth one is sort of a standalone. It's about 3 years after the events of the series, centering on the people who survive, because death is a thing. And It will be the last one because I'm ready to let go of the characters.
Okay.
And I already know how it's going to end. And I very much a pantser. I usually know how I want it to start. I know where I want it to end. Sometimes I get this one very specific scene that, oh my God, that would kill it. And then I just go and let the characters tell me what happens in between.
When you started writing, did you start writing it as a series, or did it start as I'm going to write a book and then it turned into a series?
With these, it was actually, I started this first one, Scales and Stingers, during April of 2020. So right at the start of the pandemic. I was working retail at the time. I was off work for 3 months. And, it was me and my son at home, and husband was considered an essential worker, so he was still going to work every day. And we had to move our Dungeons and Dragons game online because we weren't allowed to meet up, and that's when I started this story. There's characters from here that were from the game that we were playing at the time. And it became, okay, I got through book 1 and I'm like, okay, that was good. I'm good. About 2 weeks later, nope, there's a book 2 in me.
Oh, wow.
And before I finished book 2, I realized there would be a third to really get through everything I wanted to accomplish with the characters.
And
then, of course, about
and final one coming soon.
What?
And the fourth and final coming soon, or do we have a date for that yet?
I'm still working on. I actually, I have anxiety, depression, and PTSD issues, and I just am coming out. And yay for modern pharmaceuticals! I'm just coming out of a rather bad depression slump, so I didn't write anything for like 4 or 5 months, and I'm back to writing again. But because my original series was contracted as a series, there's no guarantee that my publisher will want the 4th book. And if she does when it's done, great, but I don't know where in the schedule it'll be. Okay. I don't get priority, nor do I expect priority.
Yeah. Who would you say the books are for? Like, who should be reading the books?
I have gotten people from, kids that were like 10, 11 years old. I've seen a lot of guys pick it up. Some of the women love it. If you like a sense of adventure, if you are a fan of character-driven narratives, because mine is very character-driven, and if you honestly believe that if you really like the concept of the found family, those people that we can be totally ourselves with. They don't care if what we did in the past, they might even laugh about it sometimes. It might become a running joke. But, these are the people that if something goes wrong in your life, they're there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next day. And with Thea, who's one of the main characters, she's never had that. And she's been very isolated due to her heritage. And so it's a lot of her coming out of her shell and understanding that no, there are people in the world that will accept her for who she really is. Not that she shows everybody, because we all have dualities, and we are who we are at work, we are who we are at home by ourselves, we are who we are with our friends, and even with our friends it can vary. Yeah. So being able, and she's got people that with her that they have their own secrets. They have their own parts of life that they don't want to be part of, but they have to. And it becomes it's that found family that you just know if something goes wrong, the rest of them are there.
Yeah. Great series. Great series. I'm happy, as someone who has depression, I'm happy to know that you're doing well right now. That makes me very happy. What do you love most about your life right now?
that I'm bad, I'm trying to get into a couple cons. I absolutely love going to conventions and selling the books and having tables. I have so much fun with that. There is my cat who drives me nuts, but she is my familiar.
That is what cats are
I went
for.
to
Yes.
spreadsheet short up. Huh?
That is what cats are for.
Yes. I've had a lot of cats in my life. I've been owned by one or two, never to this extent.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a tortoiseshell, which means she's got the tortitude up the butt. I don't usually need an alarm clock. It's a backup because she will start trying to wake me up anytime between 3 and 4:30 because she's hungry.
Yeah. When she's ready, yes. When cats are ready, we have to be ready. There's no way around that.
Very much so.
Yeah. What's the best way that people can connect with you and follow you and find your books?
Well, the books are available everywhere from Barnes & Noble to Amazon to Kindle to Kobo, Smashwords, every place. And I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Facebook. I'm not a big social media person, only because I don't like being fake online. I don't want to pretend like everything's perfect and wonderful and knocking sales out of the park and everything like that. And I have zero patience for the scammers that show up that, are these books look wonderful. Do you have links? And I'm like,
every day around here. Yes.
Can you please just take 5 seconds? If you want my business with something for marketing or whatever, take 5 seconds and actually Google them. Don't make me do your job for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love the scammers.
So I've, plus I have a 40-hour-a-week job. I'm trying, we've got one daughter that's flown the nest and doing amazing on her own. Our son is at grad school for art in Montana, and he's just knocking it out of the ballpark there. So it's like, me and my husband and the cat around the house. Still playing D&D every other Sunday. We just had a game last Sunday. I'm actually running the campaign right now, and one of our players was not happy with me because I used fire against his troll, and trolls don't regenerate hit points if they get hit with fire. He was like, don't
language to me.
What was that?
I said it's like speaking a foreign language to me. I will have to play at some point to figure out, because everybody does it and I've never done it.
Yeah, a good place to start is check your local game stores, because a lot of them have open tables, and even if you're not wanting to play, you can go watch.
Yeah.
But it's very much an exercise of imagination and problem solving and being able to work with everybody else. Okay, he's doing, somebody finds out and tells the party, hey, I don't think fire damage is the thing to do on this. Then you have to, I was going to do this big sell. Well, darn it, I'm not going to do that now because it's not going to hurt him as much. It's also an excellent way to get rid of aggression.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You had me at that. That's perfect. Perfect. Well, I know you have to get to work, so I'm going to let you go, but I want everybody to go to kmwarfield.com. Well, she's not really on social media, but follow her on everywhere she is. Go get the books. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
One thing I can tell you about my website is there is a tab that says The Murder Hobos, the Green Frog. How this series started was that campaign, and I slowly started doing these little shorts for the story or for the campaign as we were playing. And that's what morphed into book 1. And so you can go through and read how it occurred in game and get a feel of the characters before you go buy the books.
Oh, I love that. A little peek inside your brain.
Yes, it is a good peek.
Yeah.
It's not always doom and gloom in there.
Yeah. I hear you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks for stopping by. We'll take a break and be right back after this. Don't go away. Life is difficult. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like you could use a little support for your mental well-being? Visit the Help Hub. It's the most comprehensive and inclusive free online destination for mental health resources, helpful tools, crisis hotlines, and supportive content. Just go to thehelphub.co to find the resources you need when you need them most. Unlike other resource pages, the Help Hub is divided into 16 different categories, ensuring that everyone in every community has access to the resources and support that matches their unique needs. Find the help you're looking for at thehelphub.co. All right, we're back, everybody. We're about to have a vital conversation about modern family building with a true trailblazer. Ayo Haynes is a passionate advocate for open adoption and a dedicated coach for single women pursuing motherhood. She brings a unique perspective to the stage, drawing from her own experience as a single adoptive mother and offering practical guidance for every step of the adoption journey. Ayo challenges societal norms and empowers women to create the families they dream of, regardless of their relationship status. Get ready, because this is a really good conversation. Please welcome Ayo Haynes.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited to be here. It's probably one of the most fun podcasts I've been on, that's for sure.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we're going to have fun / talk about a serious topic of open adoption. You were in the public eye for a long time in entertainment on TV and doing all these quote unquote magical things, right? Like the things people dream of. And then you thought, you know what? I'm going to do something that really means something that's close to my heart. Is that what happened?
It was more like what was missing, right? I had traveled all around the
Mm,
world. I've been to every state. I was on TV interviewing people around the world, and having these incredible experiences with dolphins on the Indy 500 track. All these amazing things that came with an amazing job. And then I switched into real estate, had accolades there. But when I looked up, I realized not only was I in my late 30s, I was not in a relationship, and there was a huge hole in my heart for a child. It was something I always wanted from
mm,
childhood, to be a mother and to be a mother of lots of children. And the thought of not being able to live that kind of dream for my own life was just not something I was willing to go forward with. So I call it my life non-negotiable. I had a conversation with myself and God, and I was like, what is it that I'm not willing to leave this earth without having experiencing? And it was that motherhood. So I set about
mm.
becoming a mother.
And when did it become sort of your mission, right? Of like, when did this pass over into like, okay, well, I'm a mother now, into like, no, this is a very serious thing that I need to go out and talk about.
It took a while because,
Mm,
initially I'm just in the middle of raising my daughter by myself because I'm a single woman, just trying to figure out all of that. I had just lost my mother the same year. So it's not like I had someone right there
mm,
with me, to help me through that process. I did have my mother's sister who stepped in as my mother and grandmother to my daughter. But for the most part, it was like figuring a lot out for myself. And I didn't even start by knowing how much of open adoption really was important to me. I actually was very fearful of it initially, based on what society says. But as I began having this interaction and building a relationship with my daughter's birth mother, I realized how powerful it was to actually have a communication line of communication set up where I can actually have heart to heart conversations, share pictures, just be friends with this woman who had gifted me the best thing in my life.
mm.
And from there, it wasn't probably till like when she was 6 or 7, I started thinking, you know what? I think I've learned a lot about this process. And I think other people would really enjoy having the same kind of experience that I was having. So it took a while, but here we are.
Here we are. Can you talk about what an open adoption is and the difference between open and closed, which I mean, I guess kind of seems obvious, but you never know.
Yeah. So the boomer generation generally had closed adoptions. There was a lot of shame around pregnancy. If you were unwed, there was all of this kind of hide it, make an excuse. The girl disappeared for a few months and showed back up all of a sudden. And a lot of times those adoptions were held or done by religious institutions, and they had the control over whether the information would be closed for the rest of the child's life or information would pass forward.
Mm.
And if you wanted that information, you would have to go back to that charity. Charity may be gone. The mother may have used an alias or not given her name. So there was a lot of secrecy, and secrecy means shame a lot of times. So when you have an open adoption, that means that you know who they are, you know information. And I generally call that a semi-open, when you just know the information, but there's no interaction. I espouse an open adoption where there is not only a sharing of information back and forth as a dialogue, there's also a relationship that the birth family has with the child. And it starts with the birth mother. And it doesn't have to be over the top, like we're coming to breakfast every morning. It could be as simple as once a year you get together and you see each other in person, or you send pictures, as long as there's a dialogue going, so that when the child has a desire to learn more, you have answers readily available. And instead of being like, I don't know, you're right, you should know.
Which is, I mean, which also probably helps with health related things as the child is growing up. So you have the knowledge of what could go wrong, or if they do get sick with something, if there's a family history. I suppose that's also helpful.
Very helpful, because you do get a list of supposed things that the birth family has checked off, that what's in the family, what runs in the family, what doesn't, but you don't know people are being truthful or not. People generally tend to want to say that everything is great, as we would when we go to the doctor's office. Oh yeah, everything's fine. Right. But if you have someone who's there who can answer your questions, then that is so helpful. For instance, my daughter grew 7 inches in 1 year. And I was like, what's going on here? But I was able to just text her birth mother and like, hey, who's tall in your family? And find out, oh yeah, height goes in, it goes in the family. So that's just a very simple question that I would have. But imagine if it was something more serious, you would want to be able to have a ready access to information that could help you, whether you're at the hospital or to plan for the future.
And the relationship you have with the birth family is obviously family by family, right? Like you both get to decide the type of interactions that you will have with each other, right?
Absolutely. And as the actual parent, I have the most say. So if the birth mother is desiring contact and as as the adoptive mother, am not comfortable with that, or the level of openness, then I'm the one that's basically driving that ship. Hopefully, there's a communication, there's conversations happening where we can find out what the ease is, where you are not feeling comfortable, and where you want to answer any questions. There might be something nagging in your back of your head. You might have a question that was unresolved from before. So it doesn't have to happen all at once. It's all about communication. It's like any other relationship that you start, right? It starts out by having a conversation about, what are you like? Who are you? All of these little tiny things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be friends, but you can be friendly, and it only can be beneficial for the child. It will really help them settle into who they are, have no shame, no questions about why they were given up for adoption. I try not to even use that word. It's so programmed in us to say given up. It really should be placed in love, or placed in a home, a loving home. And so, yeah, it's not a magic pill. It's not like, ooh, I'm gonna wave my magic wands and we're instantly friends and we, you know,
One big, it's the
everything
Brady
is fine.
Bunch.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's not that. It could be. I mean, you never know. It comes with
Hmm.
emotional maturity. We don't know what each person is bringing to the table. Fear is a huge, huge ticking time bomb that we cannot let get lit. So if you let fear be the guide of the conversations and the interactions, then it's going to derail the relationship. But if you go into it knowing that you both have at the center of your relationship the care and well-being of that child, then it can only be better as time goes on.
Is there communication between the two families from the beginning, or how does that work when you decide to go into adopting and then decide on an open adoption? Is there communication right from the get-go?
It depends. I always say every
Okay.
single adoption is different from the next. There's no two that are the same. So in my situation, we met in the waiting room. I had not met them at all prior to that
Um,
time. I had been selected and I knew who they were, who the birth mother was, but I didn't have a picture. I didn't know anything. In the waiting room, I was able to meet her mother, develop a really short relationship, but obviously it was a good one. And then from there, I was brought into the delivery room because we were able to develop a rapport and just get rid of what agencies tend to creep into the conversation.
mhm.
Society tells you, oh, you have to worry. Well, don't be friends with that person. You know, she's going to want to take your child. And those kind of conversations are not helpful. And they're not necessarily
Mm.
true either. The person who's putting their child up for adoption is in a situation that is where they are looking for the best home and the best situation for a child that they love very dearly and they want the most for. So they want to see that that relationship is successful with the person that they've chosen to parent their child. And so it can be, yes, that you are in conversations in beginning, or it might not be for several months or even several years, because don't forget the birth mother does have a grieving process to go through,
Yeah.
right? That's not something that's light. You have a joyous occasion happening over here with me and my family, and then you have a loss of a potential, child over here where they're going to see the child regularly. However, I always say this is the beauty of open adoption, is that because you are now in communication and you have a relationship with the birth family and the adoptive family, that child that you thought you would never see again, you get to experience their life through pictures, but through videos, perhaps in person, so that you don't have to wonder what their life was like, what it turned out
Mm.
to be. If that child you pass on the street is your own child, you actually know certain key aspects of their life that can make you feel very grounded in your decision.
What happens as you're saying all of that, and it sounds like you get, the lucky side of that is that you get to still be in someone's life that you helped create and that you do still love in many ways, like um it's not something that's usually a quick thought to put your child up for adoption. It's a very hard, difficult thing to do. What happens if either the birth family, it's too much for them, right? Like it becomes too much to be in that child's life and too hard for them, or the other side where the child um doesn't want to be in their family's life either? Are
Yeah,
there
I
like
mean,
options for that? Is that just a
yeah,
conversation? Okay.
it's always options. So the control is in
Interesting.
the adoptive parents' hands, whether the relationship of how open the relationship is, how frequent the visits or contacts are. It may, you may have time to talk to each other, or they may not. They may just see pictures.
Mhm.
But wherever that child falls in the development of their own relationship, and as they grow and as older, they can make decisions and tell that to their adoptive parent. You know what? I want
Mm.
to take a break I'm not really feeling comfortable, whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
The adoptive parent is in the driver's seat of the relationship. And
Mm.
because of that, you should be aware of your position and know how to address either side. And if things need to slow down, they slow down. If they are, once everything is resolved or feeling better, you can pick it back up. But it's all personal to the situation for each family.
And it sounds like communication has to be the highest priority on everybody's parts, right? To make it safe and
Right.
healthy. Mm.
Absolutely. And you're going
Yeah.
to set the ground rules. It's never going to be the birth family immediately to the child. It's the both adults talking, getting to know each
Mm.
other. The adoptive parent is going to assess whether the birth parent is emotionally healthy and is able to be in the child's life. And that's a decision that has to be made. If that's not the case, then you have to then maybe just move to pictures, or you just distance yourself. I hope that with starting conversations early on, and even before you become an adoptive parent, that you are letting the birth parents know what your intentions are, which is what I did in my brochure. From the beginning, I was very clear and open that I wanted to have an open adoption and that my child would know who their parents were.
I know a lot of or the bulk of your work is with single women looking to have an open adoption. What are some, I don't know if you call them tips, or what are some things that women need to be ready for or get ready before they even enter an adoption process?
Yeah, so when you're in your 40s and 50s and you're single and you've gotten to a place where you're doubting whether you're going to get married in a time frame that is going to be able to produce a child physically, you start wondering, have I missed that boat? Is it too late?
Mm.
Can I do this by myself? What will people think? And so I always encourage my clients to just have a conversation with yourself about what is your life non-negotiable, very much like what I did. Is
Mhm.
this something you can live without having experience? Are you okay with not being a mom? And if you answer those questions and say, no, I'm not okay, I won't be okay, this is something I absolutely want, then let's talk, let's go forward. And then there'll be a lot of different other questions I'll ask about, does your lifestyle lend itself to be a single mom? Do you need to change jobs? Do you need to get a bigger place to live? Do you have a support system? And even if the questions are no, then we can figure out how we start working on getting you to those places where we can change the answers to yes.
Mm.
And
What
then
is
I
your
would also
daughter? Oh,
say,
sorry, go.
oh no, I was going to say the other thing. So that's on an emotional level. On a practical level, you have paperwork to fill out. You have to apply for a home study to be done, find a social worker in your area, have them come in and assess your lifestyle, see if you're financially able to take on a child, get fingerprints. There's a lot of little steps along the way. So that's the practical side, but they're just as equally important is to address the emotional side.
Is there an average of how long it takes start to finish?
Placement, yes. It's
Yeah.
funny. Again, no adoption is the same. I was told 10 years ago that it was going to take about a year and a half for me to become an adoptive mom before a birth mother would choose me as her child's forever mother. And I was okay with that to a point. I was like, all right, if it's going to take that long, let me just help the process along as much as I can by getting my paperwork done, getting this done, getting that done. And obviously you have to work with a social worker. So there's another person's schedule that you have to fit into that. And it's a 2 to 3 part process, depending on how many times they need to come back to your house and get paperwork and all of that. So that process can take, a month and a half, 2 months, or it can take 6 months, or it could take whatever.
Um,
My process, after I put my paperwork in, I was selected, I would say within 2 to 3 weeks, I was
Oh my
selected after
gosh.
that, which was mind blowing to me because I was expecting a year and a half. Now, if you are being called from a hospital, and you've been waiting and waiting, you can get a call from a hospital and you have to make a decision in a day, maybe 2 days. So it just, there's no immediate answer to say how long it would take. It really
Okay.
is how God decides to
Yeah.
bless you.
Yeah. Yeah. So be ready. Yes. I know you were talking about how the adopt or the birth family has the choice. They choose who the child is placed with. What how does that work on the adoptive family side?
Well, you have choice as well. And that's a
Okay.
very great question because at times, I was told, oh, do you want this kind of child? Do you want that kind of child? And as a single woman, I had a vision of how I wanted to have a child or be the mother of a child. I'm in real estate, I do acting, I travel a lot. So I knew that having a child who would have handicaps was not going to be the ideal situation for me. And there are single women who are able to take on children, to mother children very well, who have neurodivergence or any other kind of um, difference that is not what we would normally call normal. So for me, having made that decision, an agency was trying to have me take on a child who was going to be born addicted to drugs. And I knew based on my lifestyle and my work, I couldn't do that. I wasn't going to be able to
Mm.
get that child to doctor's appointments on a daily or even weekly basis. So, yes, you have a choice as to what type of child you take with the physical ailments or not. Whether it's a boy or girl, don't just say, yes, I'll take a boy when you really want a girl. The right child will come around for you. So don't feel like you have to make a hurried decision, or that if you pass up on this child, you won't get another one. I truly believe
Mm.
in divine timing. The right child is there at the right time for you specifically.
Yeah. So being really honest with yourself about the process and with your social worker, right? Like just laying it all out there and then
Yeah.
it'll happen.
I
Cool.
mean, usually there's a document that you'll fill out that will ask you questions and what your preferences are. And that's your time to be very honest and to stick
Mhm.
to your guns. Don't change your mind later because you feel pressured, whether by the agency or society or whatever. Take your
Yeah.
time, don't rush, and make sure you have the right situation for you.
Mm. What does your daughter think of the work you're doing?
Oh, she loves it. She's very, we're 10 years into it. So she hears me doing my podcasts.
Mm.
Um, you know, she has other friends that are adopted too. So it makes her feel proud. She takes ownership of her story. And we also happen to look alike. So it's amazing that we have this physical similarity, but we're not by blood. I always say to her, and from the beginning, I've said it to many people, that I didn't birth her, but she was literally born in my spirit. That she has
Mm.
so much of my personality, so much of my mother's personality too. So, I do believe in spiritual connections, that there are little souls on the other side that are waiting for us. And I also believe that they give us their names. Like I named her Ife, which means love. And so and just by chance my name means joy. So I say my house
Oh.
is filled with love and joy.
Oh. So special. What do you
Thank
love
you.
most about your life right now?
I love having conversations like this. I love working with clients. I just went to one client's baby shower. She got her baby very unexpectedly, very quickly. She was going through all these other routes, and then she got a call from her social worker. We have a baby. Do you want her?
Oh.
And so, like her, like I should like me, we had she had her baby shower with the baby there, and that's exactly what I had to do because I had no time to plan really. So I love seeing that. I love having conversations about formula and how to raise a child, how to start the relationship with the birth family. Having people call me and say, I saw your post and it really touched my heart. This is something that I thought was not a huge need of mine, but I love it. I love what I see and how you've presented your situation. And I think I really want that. And I
Yeah.
want to pursue that. That just lights me up.
Oh, what's the best way that people can follow you and connect with you out there in the
Yes,
world?
they can find me at openadoptionsuccess.com. And I have a whole bunch of freebies on there. There's a questionnaire. There's no right or wrong answer. You answer it, book a call with me. We'll go over it and discuss, next steps. I have group coaching as well. I have a blueprint, which is a way for you to really dig deep into whether open adoption as a single woman is for you. And if it is, let's go for it. We work through it.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. Anytime. Anytime. I think the advocacy work that you're doing is so needed, and it's so vulnerable, and so thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for being open to it, and thank you for sharing with your viewers. It always warms my heart to see someone who probably has never thought of it to this deep level ask such enlightening questions. So thank you for your talk show skills.
Well, I always thought I would have 400 adopted kids. Like was like as a kid, I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to adopt all my kids, and that's going to be.
Great.
I was always inspired by Rosie O'Donnell, who huge foster adoptive advocate, and then I saw my friends have kids, and saw how tired they were, and I was like, maybe I'll just stick to it. Not having kids and just love
well,
them
just
all
have one. You don't
apart.
you don't have to have
True.
400. One
True.
will be less tiring than 400.
Yes, that's true. That's so true. We'll chat. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. We're going to take a break and we're going to be back. Are you tired of the same old drinks? Let your taste buds travel. Honkaku Spirits delivers authentic Japanese spirits right to your door. From family distilleries in southern Japan, they bring you exquisite small batch shochu, awamori, koji whiskey, and gin. It's more than a drink, it's a journey to Japan in every sip. Discover your new favorite spirit at honkaku.com and enjoy free U.S. shipping on any order. Thanks for sponsoring the show, Honkaku Spirits. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. Go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching the show, and I love you for it. We'll see you tomorrow with an all-new episode. Have a great day. Bye-bye.